Thank you. I love technology. Sometimes it doesn't work. Mostly it's my own errors. I have a feeling we have a lot of technology experts in the office, in the room. Do we? No hands are going up. Do you have a smart device? Okay, 7 billion in the world. Are you on Facebook? Third largest country if you added up all the users. Are you on LinkedIn? 2 people join every second. And do you take a selfie? Yes, you do. 93 million selfies are taken every single day. Don't tell me you're not into technology. It just came into your lives seamlessly, and you're using it every day. And that's what this presentation is about. Thank you. These are the results of a think tank that I put together that included large corporations, small companies, medium-sized companies, entrepreneurs, entertainment industry, healthcare, hotels, hospitality, you name it, policy people, academia, to talk about the future of work. We did it for about a day and a half. We came out with a number of reports and results. We came out with 10 forces and 10 skills of the future. Now, we don't have time to go through them all today, but what I'd like to do is to give you some of the findings and share with you as you're here for 2 days to think about your workplace. So let me start with the forces. Number 1 force impacting companies today, we called it extreme longevity. You're going to live to 100. It's a very hard concept. You may have read in National Geographic that a baby born today will live to 120. You may have seen on the Jersey Turnpike, Prudential Insurance saying that the number of people living to 100 by 2020 will double and continue to accelerate. It is mind-boggling for people to think about living that long. So in fact, I went out and asked 200 women, including Carol, by the way, what does it mean to you if you're going to live to 100? And the women said to me, you know, if I'm going to live to 100, I have to afford to live to 100. And if I'm going to afford to live to 100, that means I'm going to have to work until I'm 80. 80. Can you imagine working to 80 years old? They said, well, if I'm going to work to 80 years old, I have to stay healthy enough to work to 80. I have to stay educated enough to work to 80. I have to stay technical enough to work to 80. That's mind-boggling because I was only prepared to work for 20 to 30 years. And now I have to think about a career for almost 60 years. Now, the corporates in our group said, that's really interesting, and yes, you're right, as an individual, you have to think about these things as an employee, but think about us. We're running these corporations with 3 generations in the workforce, 4 generations in the workforce. McDonald's said 5 generations in the workforce. Do you know what kind of dilemma that creates for managers, for executives, for CEOs running firms? Every generation comes in with a different expectation, a different goal, different interests, motivation differences, and most importantly, technology differences. Some generations love technology and use it all the time, and that's all they want. Some people at work hate technology. They're afraid of it. They view it as dangerous. And some people are just really interested in technology, but they don't have a clue on how to use it. And it made me think, actually, of a quick video I'd like to share with you that I saw about a younger generation woman giving her dad one of the new iPads. I'm sure you could feel that in your workforce. Extreme longevity, multiple generations in the workforce is something that we need to think about. We're all feeling it, and we're going to be talking about it actually later on today. Number 2 force, we live in a VUCA world. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. The term, I'm told, is a military term. It's what soldiers feel out in the battlefield every single day. You just don't know what's going to happen. And this is what our leaders are telling us is, that's what it's like to run a business today. It's like you're living in a VUCA environment. You never know when there's going to be a terrorist attack disrupting your life. like 9/11. You don't know when there's going to be a natural disaster wiping out your business in a second, like Sandy. You don't know when there's an itty-bitty little competitor waiting in the wings just to eat your lunch, like Netflix or Uber or Bitcoin, right? That's what it's like to run firms today. So what we need as leaders are employees who we can groom to live and work and lead us into the next generation. Very different. The concept of entrepreneurial employee. We live in a VUCA world. Globally connected world and flat world labor. Two other forces which I'll connect together. I call it actually from eBay to Elance. eBay, as you know, is a marketplace. And you can go out and start a business in a matter of hours and collect international currency. In fact, I've done it many times. It's amazing. Any business today can be global in a matter of seconds thanks to technology. Elance, by the way, is another marketplace, which I use actually quite a bit as a manager. Elance, I can go out and find people to do statistics, editing, help me with my videos, maybe do a little writing for me and crunch some data, all for about $2 an hour. Elance is a marketplace of talented, skilled people. Their competition for us as individuals, as we were thinking in our think tank, is your competition isn't really your neighbor next door anymore, is it? It could be someone anywhere in the world. So, on one side, we love the fact that globalization doesn't mean one way anymore, exporting. It means that any business can be global, and that's really exciting. But at the same time, we have flat world labor. That means as an executive, I have more choices. As an individual, I have to think about how to stand out and stay skilled. So then we moved into saying, how does technology change work? Or is technology changing work? Well, if you think about it, we are shifting and have shifted from a classical world to a technology-based world. I would even suggest that we have changed from a qualitative world to a quantitative world, and that is impacting our jobs and our different industries. So our auto manufacturers said, let me just give you how cars have changed. It used to be that a car had 4 wheels. You changed your own oil. When's the last time you changed your own oil? Usually you get a text message now. You actually used a key, a real key that was made of metal, right? And they were pretty much the same. But today, you have so many more choices in cars. You have inexpensive cars like the Nano. You have expensive cars like the Bugatti. You have custom-made to order cars now like the Mini. You have electric cars like the Tesla and natural gas cars. You have a lot of choices today. In addition, we pump up our cars with incredible technologies, surround sound, security system, automatic airbags, everything that you can imagine. And so our auto manufacturers said, you know what? Cars today really aren't like cars in the past. In a technology-based world, cars are really intelligent mobile devices on wheels. And that's a big shift that maybe we didn't really watch that slowly as it crept into our lives. But I said, well, think about Google. Did you ever think that Google would come out with a car? But they are in 2020. It's called the Google car, I guess. But they're taking it a step further in the digital world. They're pulling out the hardware. No more pedals, no more steering wheels. It's going to run on GPS, artificial intelligence, and sensors. It's basically software in a box. So cars have shifted from something where I could actually get in a car and know what I'm doing to something that's actually going to be just generating software commands for me to move around. And that creates complications. In fact, if you're like me, many of you in the room probably travel, and you go to car rental agencies, right? And you fill up the car, and you actually don't know how to drive them anymore because they've got different GPS systems, different kinds of remotes and fobs. And thank goodness that General Motors actually has a call center now. And a little Mayday button, by the way. If you look in the General Motor car, push the Mayday button. Somebody like Sue here in the call center will help you drive your car out. Amazing how quickly it's happened. So, BMW said, you know, as our products move from the classical world to the technology-based world, and they get more and more enriched with technology, what do you think happens to the service and the way that we train people? We have to get people up to speed and use the technology to enable them to work in our cars. So let me just show you a quick clip from BMW on what it's like today to get trained to repair a car. And I'll explain to you the technologies. So basically, the conclusion is as our products and services get more and more technology-oriented and increase in complexity, we also have to develop different ways for the consumer to engage, like the call center, or even more importantly, think about our workforce and how are we going to help them with the continuum of technology through training. So then we said, well, what about the future of work? And I asked the group, and I'll ask you today to start thinking as you go through the next 2 days, will firms today, tomorrow, really look the same? So will the way that a firm exists today really be relevant even in 2020? So let me just give you some examples. Agriculture. When we were at Agricultural Society, we gathered around the farms, right? Then we moved into industrial society, and we gathered and worked around the factories. Then we moved into the information society, and we went to these office buildings that had these expensive computers, and we gathered around in our cubicles, right? So we had shared resources. And now we're in the digital age, and we gather around Wi-Fi spots and electrical power outlets, because that's where we gather to do our work. So how could work possibly look the same tomorrow as it does today? But I wouldn't stop there. I would think about, would the employee of tomorrow look like the employee of today? If you looked at statistics, 1 in 3 people right now are freelancing. That's 40 million adults. By 2020, 40% of the workforce will be doing some sort of project work, working part-time. The velocity of an adult staying in a job is 4 years, 4 months. That's not longevity in a workforce. And in fact, new companies today average maybe lasting 10 years at most. So it's actually already changing. We're not really employees anymore, are we? We're agents. We're free agents, sort of like the Hollywood group that merge together and try to get roles and parts in an upcoming movie. I mean, we're just free agents needing to start to broker our skills and our brands. But as companies, we want to make sure we try to attract those people who have highest skills and strong brands. So I would ask you to think about today and tomorrow about where is the next generation of your firm and what is the next generation employee look like. So then we came up with 10 skills. I nicknamed them the survival skills. Do we need these skills in the future? We don't have time today to go through all of them, but I'll just give you a couple to think about. Number 1 is design mindset. Now, I just talked about the future of work, and I think this skill can be very helpful as you design your future workplace. Let me tell you why. Work is creating a product, a service, an idea, a movie, healthcare. How do you try to design your workflow so that your employees are the most productive? So let me give you an example. Facebook, Apple, and Google said, you know, you're right, Tracey. we actually are creating mega campuses. A large group of our employee base are engineers. And engineers are best when they're collaborating together in a space, in a comfortable space, like a college campus, where we give them food and volleyball and massages and dry cleaning, and I think Facebook is even building a dorm. But the idea is that we keep our engineers together, collaborating in real time. Now, Ernst & Young, Price Waterhouse, Accenture said, oh, that's really interesting. Our primary employee base are actually sales consultants. We don't want them collaborating with each other, quite frankly. We want them out at the clients, right? Because they're most productive when they're on the road or at a client site billing hours. So we need to design workflow to support that kind of activity, using a lot of technology, telecommuting, teleworking, different telepresence, right? What can we use to support that? But then our healthcare group said, you know, our work is patient care. We need to design our hospital systems to be most productive for the patient. So we need to design our employees to be care teams. We need to think about the color scheme and comfort in our hospitals. We need to think about putting beds in the room with sick kids so the parents can stay with them, because our product of work is health, and it's all about the patient. And then our entrepreneur said, that's not us at all. The way that we work the best is just on our device, sitting in a Starbucks, or in this case, the Ace Hotel in New York here, just making sure that there's Wi-Fi and people around. So design mindset. How can you design your life? How can you design the workplace? Second skill we talked about is multimedia literacy. 65% of us are visual learners. 18 to 34-year-olds would rather go to YouTube to watch a tutorial than to read something. Yet we continually deliver training, information, brochures in text. So isn't it time to start thinking about how to add multimedia as into our repertoire of information? So let me give you an example. I was in Amsterdam. It was a couple of months ago. And all these people were running downtown, and I'm like, where are you running? And they go, oh, it's a big store opening. H&M is opening up a new store. And I was like, who cares, right? And they go, no, this store opening is probably not like any store opening you've ever seen before. And I said, okay, I went down. And they were right. It was a multimedia experience. And I'll show you some clips that I took actually on the store opening. The technology they used is called 3D mapping. Hotels use it. I've seen it in Dubai. I've seen it in Sydney. I've seen it as a car opening and also at a casino. A new way to engage the consumer using multimedia. Multimedia literacy. Sense making. Sense making, we live in a data world. We're going to hear a lot more about data in our following panel and in the rest of the sessions. Sense making, I'd like you to think about as uber critical thinking. How do I make sense of the masses of data that is out there today? So let me just give you a quick example. This past July, I got a phone call from the customer service department at Nordstrom. Happens to be another store. And Nordstrom gets on the phone to me and they say, Tracey, we miss you. And I said, you miss me? And they said, yes, we miss you very much. And I said, how can you miss me if you don't even know who I am? And they go, oh, Tracey, we do. We know you. In fact, we've known you for 3 years. So I said, how do you know me? They go, well, we got these software systems, we've got these data scientists who come in now, and we collected all your purchasing habits and we're starting to watch your trends. And in fact, we know what brands you buy, we know what departments you shop in, we know what color preferences you have, and we even think we know your favorite salesperson, and we miss you. And we miss you because you always shop in December and in August during our sales, and you didn't come in December. Now, we figured out you're a busy traveling person, so maybe you were on a business trip, or maybe you were with family for the holidays. But regardless, it doesn't matter because you didn't come into the store, and we want you back because God forbid you went to Saks or Neiman or Marcus. So we want you back in August. And so we're going to give you a gift certificate. It's going to be waiting right here at the store because we miss you. $100 gift certificate too. Yeah, it was great. So I, of course, hang up the phone, pick up the phone, and call up Nordstrom HR. I always call HR. HR is great. HR, what the heck are you guys doing? Spooky experience. And they said, well, we've been trying to get on board with figuring out trends, right, with data. And we hired some data scientists, and we have the systems in place now, and we're trying to figure this out because we really want to use it to get to know you better. We want to build a relationship with you. We want to see your patterns, basically, so we can make more money off of you and increase our sales. Sense making, making sense of the data. Last skill, novel and adaptive thinking. Here's how I want you to think of it. Have you watched a trend happen, maybe in a different vertical industry, right, that you could borrow and resolve a problem you're working on in a different way? Or have you spotted a new and interesting emerging technology that maybe is being used somewhere else, but you could maybe retwist it, right, and help you solve a problem in a new and different way? So let me give you an example. 3D printing. I think people probably know what 3D printing is, but if you don't, just imagine taking your printer and exchanging the ink with liquid metal or liquid plastic, giving it instructions, right? And then you can print something. It's a big deal in manufacturing because now you can actually print prototypes. But you can also print toys. I've seen wedding cake icing go through a printer and print out a pretty design. So it's becoming quite mainstream, but also very useful. So here is a reconstructive surgeon who looked at 3D printing, which is making strides in manufacturing and other areas, and said, I wonder if I could take the printer, put in human cells, and maybe print an ear. Let's take a look. Absolutely amazing. Novel and adaptive thinking. Can you take trends? Can you take technology and resolve problems that you're solving in a new and different way? So let me bring this to a conclusion here. A lot of skills, a lot of forces. We said if there was one big takeaway that we could recommend for leaders like yourself, we came up with the T person, transdisciplinarity. It's a really big word, but I'll tell you what it means. Today's world, we need leaders and employees who not only have breadth, but also depth, right? Generalists and specialists, plus a technology overlay. Quick example on this, I was actually international a couple of weeks ago, and a hospitality firm said to me, Tracey, we're losing our competitive edge. And I said, tell me more. They said, well, basically, we used to hire people and create great generalists, people who could run operations, run teams, right? People orientation, communication skills, the best generalists you can move around the company. Then we hired a number of specialists, and we said, we need to specialize you in HR or food service or finance, and that's all you do. But they didn't have to be technical or generalists. And then they said we have a group of people who are technologists, and they know speeds and feeds really, really well. And now we've hit a wall, because to be strategic, we actually need people who understand it all. Someone who can run a team, articulate strategy, but at the same time be able to go deep, and at the same time understand the technologies that we need. transdisciplinarity, a T person. Breadth, depth, and technology. Okay. To summarize, over the next few days, and in our next panel, by the way, I want you to start thinking about how we can embrace some of the generation differences, which are really contributions. How can we develop these entrepreneurial, skilled employees? How can we collaborate using technology and accelerate the transition from a classical to digital world and actually, in essence, create our future workforce? So with that, I'm going to actually exit, and our panel will continue the conversation with you, our panel of experts on the future workforce development. Thank you very much.